My words will never ever leave you in doubt. I don't see what all the fuss is about. I didn't know I had to watch my tongue. Now you know that I'm alone with God. Yeah, you know it's true. I'm too taboo.
James, just give it a heads up. First question is for you.
Okay.
Are we live? So that was like
We were waiting for the top.
all right, but welcome everyone to the Revenue Act in person. So that's the very first of its kind, live with like face-to-face with interaction and so on. That's actually very exciting. So thank you for Raise Up. Thank you for everyone watching us online. That's quite sad that you're not here with us today, but we understand. We don't have any mask or anything. We're all vaccinated. But quite excited to see you guys. Quite excited to have my excellent panel around me. And today we have a very important topic to discuss, which is a staff shortage in the hospitality industry. And yeah, we have quite a few questions to ask. So yeah, we'll go first with a round of intro, and then we'll be kicking with a question. All right. So should we start on the left? Boom.
Hi everyone, I'm Ariane Lengyel. I'm a senior lecturer and course leader at the University of West London.
Hi, my name is Theo. I've just graduated from Theo in London, and I work now at Heyward Group.
I'm Jane Pendlebury. I'm CEO of HOSPA, the Hospitality Professionals Association.
Hi, I'm Naureen Ahmed, Director of Marketing for STR.
I'm Thibault. I'm the founder and director of Catala Consulting. We do revenue management for hotels across Europe, and one of the regular hosts on the Revenue Act. Hi, Christina. Hi, Calvin. That's a shame, but anyway, that's glad to be here.
My name is Thomas Finn. I'm the managing director of Edwards and Finn, which is a specialist revenue management and commercial analytics recruitment firm. I also lecture at a number of universities, including Lyon, Oxford Brookes, and the University of Sussex. Yeah, that's me. Oh, and I'm also the host of ENF TV. Make sure you subscribe and you comment below. Don't worry about revenue hacks. It's ENF TV when you're looking. That's me.
Wow, okay, I have to live up to that.
Follow that.
So my name's Bekoe and I'm CEO and founder of About Partners, which is a representation and co-sourcing company for hotels and apartments.
My name is Theo Barreras from London. I work at Ahmed Hospitality. I look after service optimization, so very much key, I think, to what we're discussing at the moment, the elements of back of house for our hospitality.
Thank you.
So if I kick off with the questions, the first question is actually for Jane Pendlebury. So how can the industry retain talent through professional development? So this is a big one for you. What are HOSPA's current initiatives to alleviate hospitality to be, well, to basically be a more popular career choice?
Right, that's two parts to that question really.
Yeah.
So I think on the professional development side, it's really important for your employees to feel valued, and what better way to make them feel valued than invest in them, spend some money on them doing some professional development. Not only does that empower them and make them more engaged with the business, but obviously it should help your business as well in that those people will be more skilled. So I think it really works well for both the employer and the employee to just feel more empowered and engaged with the business. At HOSPA, we do offer professional development courses in revenue management, but also in finance and asset management as well. We do them at various different levels, so whatever people's skill, they can come in at an introductory level, or they can go right through to a more senior strategic level as well. We just will assess that at the beginning and work out which course is right for them. As HOSPA, the organisation, that's a very big part of what we do, but the other thing we do is support hotels and hospitality businesses across the UK. And we're trying at the moment 2 separate campaigns just to engage, again using that word a lot today, engage people outside the industry by interviewing people within the industry and asking them why they love hospitality. So our website is full of hashtag why I love hospitality, and there's the stories from various different people at various levels. We go from sort of barman to general manager and everything in between, and why they love hospitality. So it's a key thing that we can share out to schools, universities, people outside the industry, just to make them realise that it is a career and not just a holiday job. The second one we're doing, and I promise I'll finish on to this, is Share Your Success, which is much more for people within the industry to get engaged in. And we're launching this at our conference, which is in a couple of weeks' time on the 18th of November, if you want to join us. Share Your Success, hashtag Share Your Success. And what we're going to do is we're going to encourage anybody who's made it to a certain level within hospitality to go back to their school, their university, or any group of people that they've been involved in, and just talk to them again about hospitality, how it can be a career, how it can be a great and rewarding career, as hopefully all of us in the room and online with us today already know.
And can I ask a question to follow up with that? What do you think has changed in terms of engagement pre-pandemic and post-pandemic?
I think there's been a big change, hasn't there? Well, lots of people have just left the industry, which is fairly dire for us, and it's no secret that there's a recruitment issue. I think maybe those that were well looked after during the pandemic, either because their property remained open, they are probably more engaged than others, but there are other people out there, other operations that had to close, they had no choice, but they really kept their employees linked into them, and whether that was through Facebook chats or WhatsApp messaging or whatever, those are the ones that are winning now. So it's about looking after your employees during the pandemic.
And I think as well, changing this bad perception of the hospital industry is very important. I love to travel. Like I've been in the industry for the last 12 years now. I love to travel. I love to meet new people. I love to stay in a hotel. It's actually quite exciting to work in the hospital industry. And we have seen in the last few months a lot of high qualified talents and great talents leaving the industry, going to tech, going to Amazon, going to anything. That's super sad. I find it super sad. So I think it's us as an industry, we need to bring back this awareness that our industry is not as boring as some other industries. Like I'm not saying like Amazon is boring, but our industry is boring. And yeah, I think we need to work together to bring back this kind of for students, as a choice, as a career, and yeah, I find it very frustrating.
I think one of the biggest things that a lot of hospitality leaders, and Jane has heard me talk about this, and I think I've said it on Revenue Hacks before, and it's something that I've made very clear to the industry, is that I believe that more industry leaders need to be getting into universities, they need to be getting into colleges, they need to be getting into schools, because raising that awareness is one of the biggest problems that we've got right now, is there isn't enough awareness being raised. There's not enough people going in. And granted, I know that now more than ever, we're all as busy as we possibly can be, but I think there needs to be that commitment. If we want talent coming in, we have to do something about it. It's not for somebody else, it's not for the next person, it's us right now, right here, we have to do it. And I think that's one of the biggest messages I would say to any hospitality leader, is if you're struggling for talent, in the nicest way possible, get off your ass and go get it. Because that's what I've been doing, and that's what I've been telling my clients to do, and it works. It works every single time. If you put that commitment in, you will get it back. It's just doing it, and it's getting them across that line. So yeah, that's one thing I would say. I would actually be quite interested to hear from, sorry, right at the end, not to dodge Theo, but what's your experience been like with actually leaders or people within the industry coming to the university and talking to students and getting that engagement going?
Well, actually, I have my master's students here with me. So just last week, we had a guest lecture, HR from the Mandarin Oriental. So she came via Teams, but really keen to speak to the students, and very, very reactive, because one of my students contacted her regarding an internship, and she responded straight away. But we have had a lot of people contact us because they're desperate for staff. I don't know, you mentioned other universities that teach hospitality, but yeah, certainly we've developed a lot of relationships. Yesterday I was with Annabelle's private club, so they are getting off their ass.
Good. Glad to hear it.
And coming to us, and I think that's really important. They wouldn't have done this pre-pandemic, I don't think. It would have been for the students to go out to them rather than them come to us really keen, to recruit. A lot of our students work part-time. So that's very good. So that I think we'll be able to keep those relationships and develop them, in the future for our students.
Just like to add, I think though, if we're going to do that, we've got to do it seriously. We've got to make sure that when we get people into the industry, we treat them well, because we have had a reputation, and not all unfounded, that we're not treating junior staff, up and coming staff particularly well. And I think it's really important now more than ever that we look after our staff.
It's rebuilding that reputation, like you were saying, like why are they leaving in the first place? And how do we make sure that we retain them? Why is an Amazon more attractive than working for a Mandarin? I mean, I would rather work for a Mandarin than an Amazon. I mean, I just think, hospitality has so much variety to offer. Like you can start, I mean, I started F&B and now I'm doing, marketing and data analytics, but you can have such a varied career choices that's so open to you. And because you're within one sort of unit, you can just really go down different paths. It just, one doesn't work doesn't mean you can't go into something else.
Students sometimes think hospitality is about hospitals. So, which it can be, because there is some F&B and accommodation in hospitals. But I think you're right with that reputation. Although saying that, this year we have a very good intake of students at the university. So people are interested. And I think that's true, the varied careers, it's not that attracts them.
But I think it's always been the case, myself included. I think HOSPA does a great job. I think Jane knows that. We do a lot of volunteers and so on. There's a view that hospitality is about an entry into a country. It's let's say, your visa application. It's a desperation point. Why are the hotel leaders calling you now? They're desperate for staff. We need to educate everyone. Suppliers, don't get me wrong, my parents were desperate to come to the UK in 70, that's why I'm here today, in hospitality. So I sympathise with that, but there was an education there, was an education process for them to advise there is a career here, there is a growth here, there's something for you to become better. And I think all of us need to be part of that. I think everyone on the panel said it very much so. But don't stop there. I think Jamie said that, I think brilliantly, is not just stop here when we're desperate for the staff at the moment. The afterthought, let's build a career path for these individuals who are going to come in and help us. We have DOS, Dermot and I were talking, DOS is changing beds now and doing things. I actually think that's a great idea. So then they know what the industry is as well. Everyone should know that, because you appreciate your job more as well. Bring them into that career path. And I was doing F&B as a kid, not too far away from here. I think we need to ensure that these students, the next generation, the owners here, and the ones listening to us, some of our peers, let's all engage, all of us in these panels. Not just the owners want this, the suppliers want that, and the students want that. Everyone needs to be around those round tables and discuss that and see the careers that we can get. There's some good fun in hospitality. I think all of us can definitely, you prepare for anything in life to a certain extent. And that message needs to be there, that vocal, I guess, vocation element of the industry that's missing at the moment.
This is actually a question for Ariane again. The first one was actually for me personally, so I'm hitting it twice here. But how do you prepare students for the industry? Are there certain things that you can do to enable students to be more employable? And what have you done to adapt to the current climate?
Okay, good questions. I just wanted to add on what Custodia was saying, is that one of the good things from the pandemic, for me personally, and I think for the students, was getting access to some really high-profile people online. I mean, the CEO of Accor, I never would have gotten anywhere near him. So it was, for that, I think they were more approachable. But back to your question. So we, at the University of West London, we're very lucky. We have both undergraduate and postgraduate courses. As I said, my MA Luxury Hospitality Management students are here with us today. The undergraduate students have a 3-year course. The first year is very much operations, and we're very lucky to have a fully functioning restaurant, fully functioning kitchens, which a lot of other universities that teach hospitality have closed. So that's really great. So the students work in the kitchen and in front of house, accommodation, all the operations. Then the following year, they move into more management, so HR, marketing, finance. And then the final year is around strategy. So very much looking at strategy. At postgrad level, it's very much looking at strategy. Some of our students that study at postgrad level do not have a hospitality background. Some do. Some work full-time in hospitality. But we when we design our courses, obviously we speak to industry because we want to make sure the students are employable, that we're teaching them the skills that employers want when they finish our course. And we came up with this acronym called SMART, which is not the one you perhaps know, but it's service-minded management, analytics, responsibility around sustainability, and technology. So we very much designed our courses around those things, and teaching the students, obviously the academic side to it, but always applied to the hospitality industry. And then just to finish off, we, through the restaurant and other facilities we teach the hard skills. So yeah, we teach students, undergrad students, how to cut a carrot, but we also teach them soft skills, and I think at postgraduate level, even more important. And the soft skills are around communication skills, around having empathy, around all those skills that I think are a little bit more fuzzy, but we develop those skills through the curriculum.
I think it's important actually. I've heard a lot of people from big hotel school, and they believe on the first day after school they will be GM.
Yep, that's what I thought when I graduated.
But that's true. It's not the case actually. You have to work your way up. You have to go to the kitchen. You have to go in housekeeping. You have to go in the front office to understand how it works, all the dynamics. And I recommend actually anyone in any type of industry to at least wait a few weeks in a restaurant, because you become so humble when you realize like it's actually very tough. But you have to go there if you want to continue in the hospitality. I think that's very, very important. And teaching those kind of art skill and as also skill, yes, but at any level of the hotel, I think it's very, very important.
So we really, focus on, within the SMART, on analytics, on revenue management. Revenue management used to be an option for the undergrad students. It's now a core module. So we are really trying to evolve, with the industry around those themes, around technology, et cetera. So hopefully, and we did consult with industry when we built our curriculum for all the courses.
I have a question with regards to your working with your students in terms of what career path you're going to choose. Like when I came out, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just went for a graduate training program just to try everything out. But how do you get a student thinking about, okay, maybe revenue management is something, you can be good in operations, but you can be terrible at numbers, so revenue management is not going to be your thing. Or you're really good at operations, help them focus and do a career there, and then like you're saying, make sure you get all that experience to eventually become a GM. What kind of work do you do with your students there?
Well, I mean, we do have, a lot of contacts with employers. We have careers fairs, so the students are very much, even pre-pandemic, we're very much in contact with the employers. And I think we explain to them, you can work on a cruise ship, you can, work in a prison. There's various options. And I think just by exposing them, and also all the lecturers on the course have professional experience, so they themselves talk about their journey. But you have to ask the students that are in the room when you live there.
But you have some students who come to you saying like, I want to become the best waiter. I want to become like a very good waiter. Or they all come to you saying, I want to become a manager. I want to be like a revenue manager.
No, I think a lot of our students work in operations and are already very good waiters. And through their studies, they obviously, want to achieve something perhaps a little higher up the ladder. But it's true, yes, it's more, I want to be a manager.
Today we are lacking the housekeeping staff, we are lacking the kitchen staff, the waiter and so on. And as well because they don't see it as a full-time job, they see it as a student, like temporary job, until they find something better.
Absolutely.
And 50 years ago, it was totally different.
It was a career.
Because of career.
Especially in France, like working in a cafe, it was 3 generations.
And it was highly regarded.
Waiters.
I was a waiter, and I got tips, and I knew my skills and so on. Today, they only see it as a student job.
I think that's the assumption again of money, and the way I can say we become as humans is the managers who want the money. I can tell you it's not. My father was the head concierge. You want to talk about money in Park Lane? Speak to him. I'm being honest, there's someone who worked with me here, someone who's known me for over 20 years at the end of the table. There's a 16-year-old I used to run around here selling theatre tickets. It's not the general manager making the money. There's an assumption that it's a manager, TOS, general manager making the money. And unfortunately, we've become those kind of monetary creatures. You have this brand, you have that brand as individuals, and that's affected the hospitality industry. France, I lived in Lyon for a while, as Ariane knows. I worked in a cafe while I was out there. I could make more money on tips than the guy managing me. And I enjoyed it a lot more because I used to get a free drink from time to time from a lovely English tourist who's visiting my cheeky South London accent. And that was hospitality, and that's where the heart of hospitality is. And I agree with you, Thibault, that is missing from our industry. Everyone around there, from the conversations I overheard, as much as we're doing, and we're discussing them, and I'm discussing this, I want to do this, I want to earn this much. You can do it in so many positions in hospitality with skill sets that you learn for life, for outside of hospitality, when you want to do consultancy, revenue, or so on. And I think people miss that in our industry. They think because I have to wait tables and earn money, is the restaurant manager, is the owner. That's not always the case.
But I think salaries, I mean, certainly talking to Annabelle yesterday, I mean, they're now offering 13 to 15 pounds an hour.
Yeah.
They're not looking at minimum wage anymore. Obviously, they're all desperate for staff, so the salaries have been pushed up, and I think that's a good thing because, you know, there was a lot of abuse and long hours, low pay, still to a certain extent, and I think that's going to balance it out. And perhaps if we do find that work-life salary balance in the hospitality industry, we will attract people, you know, for life.
Theo,
Yes.
I have a question for you. So for those that don't know, Theo graduated relatively recently, and he's taken part in a number of discussions that I've been holding. And Theo's got some really great insight in terms of stepping into the industry once he's graduated. So I wanted to find out what advice you would give to any students that are studying and then stepping into the industry, or actually any employers that are looking to take grads on. What advice and what tips would you give to them?
First one would be to be open-minded. I think I wanted to do an internship in revenue management, but I'm now in consulting, and this industry is broader than we think. You can work in finance, strategy, merger and acquisition, development, F&B, front office. There's so many places where you can work, and I think you have to be open-minded. So when you look for an internship or a full-time job, you need to be open-minded and not just be narrow on your choice. So I think that'll be my first advice. The second one is give yourself the means to succeed, to achieve what you want. It's a bit cheesy, but it's the truth. You need to work hard, and if you have an objective, if you know what you want to do, then you need to give yourself the means to achieve that. Just don't mess around. Just put yourself some objective and reach your goal. And I think network as well. We have this beautiful platform called LinkedIn. People are actually nicer than I thought. And when I was looking for an internship in revenue management, I've just stalked people, I'm not gonna lie. And people were just really nice, and they accepted my invitation. They said, if you have any questions, please feel free. So yeah, don't just go on LinkedIn, stalk people, ask them questions, advice. Don't be shy. So I think that would be my 3 main points. So be realistic and be open-minded to the opportunities, because this is broad. Just don't stay on front office. No, it's more than that. And give yourself the means to achieve what you want to achieve, and network. I think that would be my 3 main points that I would advise the students, I think.
And then, as we're talking about retention in the industry, why did you choose to look for a career in hospitality instead of jumping ship? Because it's a very difficult industry to be in right now.
So first, I started my career in Birmingham, in England. I was a waiter in a 4-star hotel, and I loved it. And I just decided to study in hospitality. So I've done my undergrad in France, and then my master's degree in London, in Lyon. And I decided to stay in hospitality because I was offered a job by my lecturer, actually, where I'm currently working. Thanks, Michael. I think meeting people is what I love, and I think this is why we're all here gathering this event, because we love meeting people, and that's a passion. That's a passion, and I think that's why I stayed in the industry and didn't go to Amazon, for example, or IBM or whatever. I think that's because I like meeting people, and that's a passion. Yeah.
I think just going back to Theo's point, I always remember when I was doing my year in placement, and I remember seeing the director of sales, and she would be going in and out with a suitcase all the time, and I just said, that's what I want to be. And for me, it was like, that's what I want to be, flying all over the world. When I did get that opportunity, I was like, oh God, just give me Wi-Fi. So but I think that it's important for you to have that goal, because once you have that goal, you just drive yourself to that.
Yeah. My question actually to Theo again, and again, I seem like I'm just bombarding people here, but from an employer perspective, so I know your journey when obviously you were looking for a job, because of course we worked together quite heavily.
Yeah.
What was your experience like, and what advice would you give to employers going forward to actually make experiences for people like yourself easier and actually better? Because I know that you didn't have the easiest time for quite a while before obviously finding a job.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have found themselves in a very similar situation.
Sorry, can you
Yeah.
repeat the question? Sorry.
So what advice would you give to employers
Yeah.
when people are basically applying for their jobs? Because in my experience and of yours, they just weren't coming back to people. They weren't, they were just saying, look, they're not right, but no explanation.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to employers?
Treat us fairly. I think as you know, Tom, I applied to a job and I went to a job interview and I never had any reply. So, and I didn't find this fair. And so what I would say to employers is treat us fairly, because we are going to work for you. So, and if you want your hotel to grow and to succeed, then you need to treat your employees fairly, and that also comes to candidates who apply to your job. So, yeah, just treat us fairly. I think that's as simple as that.
Sure.
We're not asking for the moon, that's an expression in English, but yeah, just treat us fairly, and we'll be very happy to work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as I say, there's just been an increased culture of this ghosting, of just, applications going into the ether and nothing happening with them. And for somebody stepping into the industry for the first time to experience something like that, why would anyone want to step into an industry if that's the way they're going to be treated? And it's one of these things, again, where we have to be communicating this to employers. We have to be communicating this with brands. Because let's be honest, the hospitality industry, especially in the UK, as we all know, is a very small place and everybody talks. So if your brand is not coming back to people, the first thing that people like Theo will do, don't bother. They don't come back to you. Don't bother. They're not a great place to work. So any brand that is watching this, or any line managers that are watching this, if you are getting applications, just drop an email. If it's not a call, just a simple email saying, really sorry, you've not been successful on this occasion because of this. Something very simple. Try not to be too generic, but at least come back to people. That was one of the biggest things, and I know, again, that your journey when trying to find that job, which is why I asked it. So I hope you don't mind me sort of going
No,
down
not at
that
all.
route.
And don't get me wrong, we are busy, and and especially now, post-COVID. But yeah, I think that's just politeness.
Still.
I was given a piece of advice very early in my career is never fall out with anyone, because you will meet them again. And that applies to HR or whoever was interviewing as well. Sadly, the boss who gave me that advice didn't follow her own advice. It's persona non grata, but I learned from her mistakes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's such a small industry, like you end up meeting so many people along the way that and it's like, how many degrees of separation, you'll always find a connection somehow.
Yeah, be nice on the way up, you never know who you're going to be on the way down.
Yeah,
There
it's live and climb.
Couldn't agree more. Naureen, next question is for you. So how have travel trends and guest expectations changed within the pandemic? What advice would you give to hotels and suppliers to adjust to the new traveller behaviour?
I think the biggest change that's happened is the domestic travel, right? So a lot of, UK is a great example, right? A lot of it was international, but now it's all purely domestic, and they're also not going to city center locations, they're going on to the regions. So a lot of the data that we would have seen from STR is showing exactly that pattern, and right now the travel is still domestic leisure. It's still not very much business, and it's also consistently across the world. At the same time, what we're seeing with the data as well is that there's a kind of an artificial cap in the occupancy levels because there's not enough staff, right? If DOSs are having to clean the rooms and service the tables and work the event shifts and bar shifts, you can only make your staff work as much as far as you can go. I mean, in France as well, like there's also really strong limits as to how much you can do. And at the same time, because wages are going up, inflation is going up, rents are going up as well. You want to make that profitability at some point. So we're going to see that cost come through into the bottom line as well. And because it's domestic, you're not getting the international business, and you're not getting the group business, you're not getting that lower rated business that you normally have with groups. So there's just a lot happening right now. So when you think about how you're going to operate and run your hotel, you just have to be aware of all those different dynamics and just make sure that you're thinking about those things. And I think we're going to be in this for at least this kind of domestic travel, at least for another couple of years. I mean, we've working with tourism economics, we're saying like maybe in 2023 we'll see some domestic business go back, and then after that international leisure, and then after that international business.
Right.
So we're talking another 2 to 3 years here. We've got Olga here with us, from the Nova just down the road. They can tell us, in London it's weekend business, and that's all leisure. And I think most of the cities are seeing.
I've been using your STR data on the budget recovery. I recommend you as well on the recovery, but they say like leisure, the leisure domestic will come back by 2022.
Yeah, I mean it's happening now. I mean it's more than it probably was in 2019 before the pandemic, because those people who were traveling internationally are now only traveling domestically.
But you were saying, if I understand correctly, you were saying like 2019 levels, not before 2023. 4, 5,
For
30.
For all travel, or just no, maybe even more.
Level of 2019 levels, like in Europe.
I think it depends on where we end up being and what restrictions they put in place. I mean, that's the other thing. Like now the UK has lifted all the red lists, but you still have to do a day 2 test. I just got back and I'm like still having to do all my forms and everything. So, if these restrictions come through, I mean, we did a traveler panel survey a couple months ago, and the number one is the restrictions put in place by the government. So the more difficult you make it to travel into the country, which is completely out of our hands. I mean, we're not the government, we just operate hotels. And that is something completely outside of our control that will impact the ability for people and desire to travel. But when you can, they will want to travel. So is it revenge travel is the term going around? It is a true thing.
I think we're in restaurants. I was reading in London, people are spending a lot more. There's an increased spend. I don't know. It's I'll have a better bowl of wine. So there is behavior has changed. I think.
And we have seen some hotels where actually the ADR has increased quite easily this year, and because the price sensitivity seems to be much lower, where people actually they didn't spend for the last 2 years, and now they just want to enjoy. They made a lot of savings because they didn't travel, and now they want to enjoy. So I don't know if this trend that we have this year in terms of ADR will continue next year, because all the help and the government help will stop at some point. So it may reduce, but today the ADR on some of the regions will increase. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
This question is actually for you, Thibault and Linda. So either side of me. So hotels are changing their sales and revenue management practices due to the results of the pandemic, and most importantly, as a result of the staff shortage, which obviously we all know about. What is your experience, and what ideas and suggestions do you have for hotels and suppliers? I'll take that.
I think really from my perspective, it's about employers changing their mindset, because now business can be done in so many different ways. So I think the old school way when I was in sales, where you had to do say X amount of show rounds, X amount of appointments and stuff, and physically the general manager wanted to see you there, you almost have to change your mindset, as in not everybody wants to come out in the first place, but also people have had time to spend time with their families and things, and they don't have to be sitting in the office just to tick a box. So the industry has lost a couple of people purely because they've had to go in every single day, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So I think it's about people being flexible, because what's the point of losing talent if somebody can work 2 days, as in like 2 days coming to the office, and then the rest of the days they can work from home? Wouldn't you rather have that knowledge, than to let them go and get somebody full time that probably doesn't have the knowledge and is going to walk away with that. So I think mindset is definitely important. I think it's also important for us to embrace technology. I know that we love the face-to-face, but I think that as much as we hate Zoom as well, I would take like a 6 a.m. flight to go to somewhere in Europe for a day to see a client. Was that a really good use of my time? Not really. So there are different ways. So I think that we definitely need to embrace technology, and I think also it's important to look at other ways of topping up what you have. So for example, like what I do, which is heavily focused on the corporate world, how can you tap that talent to be able to help you to get what you actually need in the short term. So I think that overall we really need to change our mindset of how we go about finding people to replace.
Now I will come back to my expertise on revenue management. I think inventory control and revenue management today has been even more important than before. Mostly because we have some clients in Europe. They tell us like, okay, we have reached 60%. Thibault, shut down the hotel, like close that week. Not because of the demand, not because of anything, just because they don't have the staff to accommodate more than 60 or 80%. And that's very frustrating because they have been closed, they've been suffering on cash flows and everything. Now the demand is back, they can accommodate everything, but the staff is not here. So I think like that's the biggest issue we have. So your 60% today is your previous 100%. You need to make sure you optimize the 60% correctly. And I agree with what you're saying. Technology is very important, like automation. All those kind of tasks, that repetitive admin tasks, you can automate as much as possible. Not to replace stuff, but to extend your current team. So that's what I'm saying, like it's not AI or robot against human, it's just like an extension of your team, and that we help them focus on what is very important. Because the team today are very lean, so you need to make sure you optimize this kind of stuff. The outsource model, when it comes to housekeeping, I know it's very complicated in the UK, but the outsource model when it comes to housekeeping, when it comes to a waiter, when it comes to revenue management, is also very important. It can help you find some experts in different fields as an extension of the team as well. I think this model is also including in the department, so that we use this kind of thing. And the data-driven decision has become even more relevant today than before, mostly because of the cost profitability analysis. Because if you increase your occupancy, you also increase your cost, and you don't have the staff to accommodate those costs. So you need to make sure what you have as a demand is optimized as much as possible. And that's also why people are less tempted to drop the rate to increase occupancy. So this kind of analysis of break-even analysis, understanding what's my profitability on each room and so on, is super duper important. Yeah, I think it's an important topic.
I think the other thing, I mean, this could be open, but it really, you're talking about flexibility in an office type of role. Yes, absolutely, you can work 2 days at home and the rest you can be in the office. But for traditional operational roles, what kind of flexibility can we offer that still gives you a bit of a work-life balance when you have to be on the floor, when you have to be in the hotel? And I don't know, it's open to anybody. What have you seen? And
I think when I was talking to one of my properties, and they were looking to hire, I think, 2 different chefs, in the sense of getting one chef to do 2 days and then the other, but they were still going to be head chefs in that sense. So I think that it's looking at sharing roles, and that was purely because he said, Linda, I've been interviewing, nobody wants to work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, so they had to come up with that model. So I think that this is something that we actually need to also think about as an industry, because you can get people to share those roles.
Also, it comes down to communication, doesn't it? So if you've got a head of department who's doing the rotas, speak to your employees, speak to yourself, find out, maybe they never want to work a Wednesday or a Thursday, and that could be great. If you give them Wednesday, Thursday off, that means that they're wanting to work the weekend. And change perception as well. I heard someone say that it's antisocial hours in hospitality, but if you flip that on its head and say, well, actually you're working social hours, you're there when everyone's having fun, and you're out there sort of soaking up the atmosphere, but also being paid at the same time. So it's communication and perception is important.
Like we discussed on a few meetings, breaking down the silos, making sure you have the flexibility and the cross function. And I think the pandemic has forced us to break the silos, because now you have people doing front office, doing a bit of restaurant, and so on. I think that's super important to continue at those kind of resources. Yeah.
again, I think it just comes down to knowing your employees, right? So the communication side of it, but if you understand what means something to your employees, you can work around that. I know, being a father myself, the drop off and pick up was always massively important to me within my role. So what I did with my current, well, then employer, was talk about how I can manage that. It's about being creative and also being flexible, but being completely open and honest with what you can actually achieve. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So no, it's about understanding your employee. This one's actually for me, so I'm going to be asking the question and then answering. A bit of a weird one here, but anyway. Okay, so what tips can you give from a recruitment perspective? What are the biggest obstacles as well as opportunities, in my opinion? Okay, Tom. Okay, so biggest tips for anybody obviously looking for a job. Let's start with people looking for a job. I liked what Theo said, and it's something that I actually adopt myself, is don't be afraid to pick up the phone, don't be afraid to send people messages, don't be afraid to connect with people. The one thing I would say to anybody in this room and anybody watching, if you are in the job market, for goodness sake, do not rely on the apply now button. Do not become one of these people that quantify the success of their job search for that day by saying, I applied for 50 jobs. Look, dear, I applied for 50 jobs today. What were those jobs? What were they paying? Where were they based? What were the job titles? You're never going to remember every single one of them. So give yourself a bit of a structure. Understand what you're doing with that time. Then pick. I would challenge anyone in this room and anybody watching, pick 10 of those jobs and say to yourself, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to bring those 10 jobs. These are my top 10. If I hear from the rest, great. But these are my top 10. And I'm going to call every single one of them. What that does is it says to the employer that you're not just another CV in a pile, because trust me, you're dealing with employers that have 500-600 CVs in a pile, and they're not going to read every single page of those CVs. They're not going to read cover letters. They're not going to read any of it. They're going to read your profile, your top job, and if you're not right for the job, you'll probably go into a maybe pile or the no pile. What you want to do is go straight into that yes. So if you become that lady or gentleman that you called last week, yeah, you're the girl that called. You're the guy that called. Yeah, okay, let's set a conversation. Let's have a chat, okay? So that's one of the first tips. Do not rely on the apply now button. The other thing I'd say is the connection side of things. So if you see somebody that's in a job that you would love to do, so if you see somebody in, let's say in my world, a revenue analyst job, and you think, wow, I'd love to step into a revenue analyst job within Marriott. What stops anyone from dropping a message to that individual and saying, hi, I'm really sorry to do this, but I just wanted to find out what your journey was like getting that job. Hi, I can see that you're in a job that I would love to be in. Do you know if there's any vacancies? The worst thing that will happen is they either don't come back to you or they say no. The best thing that will happen is they'll say, why don't we jump on a call? Yeah, sure, no worries, here's my email address. Why don't you send in your CV? There are so many possibilities once you start asking questions. And I am somebody that asks a lot of questions. But it's one of the best things that I would say to anybody is never stop asking questions and never stop connecting with people, because it will be one of the best things that you do. Moving over to the employer side of things, my biggest tips for those guys. Okay, in the market that we're in right now, do not be sluggish. Do not drag your heels. If you see somebody that you like, move quickly, because every single one of my jobs, here's a bit of a statistic. So pre-pandemic, from submission, so a CV being submitted to a job and an offer being made, so interview processes and things like that, we were looking at about 3 to 4 weeks, if we were lucky, 3 to 4 weeks. Right now in the job market, for a cluster revenue manager, so a pretty standard job, 40 to 45 grand plus benefits, we're looking 4 days. From CV to offer, we're looking at 4 days. That's the market that we're currently in, because of how many jobs are out there at the market and the little number of candidates that are now there to take them. Which means salaries, as Ariane actually so rightly said, are being shot up. There was a question actually this week about salaries being quite low for some of the jobs that I was actually sort of advertising. And yes, I would agree with you that there are jobs that are paying quite low. But what we're immediately seeing is a bidding war. So they'll go in starting on the 45, and then before you know it, they've got a counter offer from their current employer, which takes them up to 50. They've got an offer from Joe Bloggs down the road that's offering them 55. before you know it, if this place wants to offer them the same job, they now have to offer an extra £10,000 just to compete. So we're seeing a bidding war as soon as offers are being made. It's like blood in the water. So what I'd say to employers is if you wait, you will lose. If you move quick and you do it right, using me, then you will win. Yeah, then you will win. But that's one thing I'd say to employers right now is do not wait. The other thing I'd say as well is look at your interview processes. There's so many things that can be done to decrease the amount of time being wasted in between interviews, but also being able to do things within those interviews, whether that be doing the assessments within that interview. So you could do the question and answer, conversational, biographical interview, and do your assessments on the same day. Get them done, or your presentations, and then you discuss the presentations afterwards. Lock that into one interview, and then if your second interview is more of a rubber stamping process, see if you can do that online rather than in face-to-face again. But you need to have that face-to-face interaction. Anybody that is just doing video interviews, I would say that you're more likely to lose that candidate in 6 months just because of that pure commitment side of things. Finally, for a quick one, it's your onboarding process. If it is not polished and that person does not feel valued from the moment they step in that door, through their probation period and then through to the 6, 12, 18 months within their job, they'll be talking to people like me. And you don't want them talking to people like me. So I'd say your onboarding process. And as Jane actually said quite rightly actually, look at what happens afterwards, the continued professional development, invest in your people, focus on what they've got going on in 12 months. Where will I be then? Where will I be here? If I achieve this, can I get this? Those are the types of people you want within your business, but you in turn need to provide that for them. So those are the things I would actually say to them. So there's the tips from sort of people that are looking for jobs, and that's tips for employers. I just got the note to say that we're running low on time. So I think we'll go over to audience questions as well.
Do you have any question? I'm happy to answer.
Yes.
I thought you would.
I have 3 questions. One is, it's probably more question maybe to Jen and Ariane. I agree that we need to, and I think before the pandemic actually, which else we're individually tackling and working with universities. I think it was already taking place, or at least maybe I'm seeing the pocket. Do we need to have, or maybe it's already existed, I'm not aware. Do we need to have a bigger, broader approach as hotels and working together with universities and schools? Because I'm not seeing it as a one platform, I'm seeing it as a kind of hotels trying to do their own, and it seems like we're just spreading our energy across. We are getting some returns for sure, but is there a better way to achieve that as the industry all put together?
I used to sit on a committee within the Springboard charity, and they had a whole mentoring program, and what their goal was to mentor students in the last couple of years of their university life and then carry on into their career. I think throughout various different staff changes and whatever, that has dwindled away, but I think that mentoring is really key. And I think a lot, again, our Share Your Success campaign can hopefully help that. And if you can, as Tom I think said, other people said, pin your sights on somebody that you'd like to be like, and then speak to them and just say, you know, I really admire what you're doing. I'd love to be where you are in 5 years' time. Would you mentor me? That would be a fantastic way forward. Some will say no, of course they will, but others might be the first time they've been asked, think, well, I'm not really sure what you want, but I'll happily chat to you every 6 weeks, which is effectively the first step to being a mentor or a coach. So yeah, I think there's a lot to do there where we can engage from industry into students at whatever level, whether it's school, university, masters, or whatever. I don't know if I've stolen all the answers there.
No, I mean, we definitely, you know, we work with Institute of Hospitality and organizations like that, and definitely mentoring. We didn't do it last year, but we always used to have the organizations come in, present to the students, and then they'd have these, you know, matching days, etc. So mentorship is a great thing. I think it, you know, as I said, at the University of West London, we have a platform where you can advertise jobs for free. We have an employment service. Some of the students are on a course that has placement involved, not all, and also the careers fairs. So I think most universities will have something similar, and tapping into that. But we are seeing right now this sort of desperation. We've never had so many contacts. It's fantastic.
And second question, because generally as an industry, we probably need a little bit more support from the government to change the perception of that it's a low-skilled work, because it's far from low-skilled. There is so much process and so much thought, and actually it's highly skilled work, whatever, whether it's waiter or running commercial leader. Do we get support? Has it changed? Did we get right now more support from the government? Is there anything can be done better? Is it in progress? Is it still early stages? I know it's a broad question, but
Yeah, I'm happy to go.
If I may, I'm not sure if it's the government. So my partner, she's an English teacher, so I can see how the school works. And what I've noticed is that they don't advertise about hospitality at all. They just send you to a university in England to do PPE or whatever, but they don't promote the hospitality in school. And I think this is where one of the big issues in the UK is that they don't provide hospitality in the right way. And here it's quite negative to be a waiter or work in reception. So I'm not sure if it's the government. I mean, the government has a part to play in it, but I think schools, have a crucial part as well to promote hospitality, and they don't do it at all. So
We don't go to colleges.
I
I think
that's an element
from
of-
the government perspective is obviously apprenticeships.
Yeah.
And, the problem with hospitality apprenticeships, especially higher apprenticeships, is that there is no framework. So universities can't tap in and master's level apprenticeships. So all these companies, perhaps like, this company, paying that levy, it's going nowhere. I think there's a big thing there. And also perhaps going down, perhaps the French or the German model of sort of in school 3 days, the very technical, getting those technical skills. But it's true that, a lot of students perhaps will balk at studying hospitality because it's not PPE.
I also think the industry itself needs to be more proud of itself. I think there's a small percentage of us who are proud, grew up in hospitality, came into the country of hospitality, wherever it may be. But there's a very small percentage of us with that vocation. And as soon as we become more proud and actually talk more, hospitality individuals, all of us love to talk. So we need to be receptive of that and give that time back, because then there'll be another 2 people who will be more proud and build on that as well. Because then the schools will listen, the government will listen. Currently, the government looks at hospitality industry the way the employees do. It's a way into a country, it's a way into that job. We don't want to be cleaners, we want to be managers. We need to be changes that so that others will listen to us as well. There's got to be a sense of pride and also positiveness about it. I think all of us can laugh at, I think the number of stories you get here, you get 3 or 4 Hotel Babylons written straight away, if anyone read the book, not very book. But I think we need that to be proud.
I think we're very lucky with Kate Nichols from UK Hospitality,
Yes.
who is flying the flag for the industry and
Very much
she's doing
so.
it brilliantly. And during that budget in the pandemic, when we got the ETAC to help out, it was amazing. I remember actually watching that live, and I've never been so interested in the budget, and then being so emotional by something that the Chancellor said. That was amazing. But there's still, I think there is still more they could do. I know that UK Hospitality were lobbying for the reduced VAT and things like that, which hasn't happened, which is a shame, because other countries in Europe do benefit from that. But I think the responsibility lies with us as well. We've got to get out there. Those of us that have made a career of it and love it, then it's up to us to spread that word.
Erika, you have something?
Yes, just in regards to the same topic, but going from the students more to retention. So there was a question or quite a bit of conversation on LinkedIn Live about that. How can we actually have a better approach for retention? How can the senior leaders also maybe be involved in training, mentorship, so that they change their approach as well within the hotels? So, and I know that the questions cannot be heard very well on LinkedIn Live, so maybe repeat it. Thank you.
Well, sorry, do you want me to repeat the question from you? Can you ask it again? I was there listening intently.
I think it was about engagement and about how
Retention.
within the industry can help retain their staff. And I would sort of throw something out there that I think the senior people quite often are very aware of that. It's that middle management who are so sort of focused on, oh my goodness, I've just been promoted, I don't quite know what I'm doing, that they forget to bring the people up with them. And so it's a training element, and the people at the top just need to make sure that filters down. Because retention should be there, and just make people enjoy it.
I think there's a point here as well. I think every hotel owner, and if I've got any of my clients listening to this, please forgive me. I love you all. Everyone focus on the guest journey. Everyone focus what my guest's going to do, what bar they're going to go to. Take your employees on that journey. Make them part of that journey. You've invested in a wonderful hospitality tech environment. You've done all of this. You need users for that software to be profitable, to have an ROI out of it. For your guests to be happy, those employees need to be even happier. So take them on that journey. Make everyone part of that journey. And the properties that are being successful, the groups that are being successful, are investing in that. And we all know them, we all read them, because when we go into their hotels, can I check you in, Tom? Really? Again, have I been early? Or, nice to see you again. Can I buy you a coffee while you wait for your room? Sorry, Erika's paying. But it is an environment, there's happiness, there's true joy. Hospitality cannot hide anything away. Because the moment you walk into somewhere, you see someone's eyes. It's that simple. So those owners, those leaders, at Ahmed, we've got something that we worked with HOSPA actually on some of it, the 360 point for us, the employees. We get our careers assessed, we get told what we're good at, what we're bad at, what we can improve, if we want to go in a totally different route. And I think that needs to be done in hospitality. Wherever you start, I think it was mentioned by 3 of the panelists already, the options are like that. I mean, I started as a waiter at the Lanesborough. I'm not selling software for Amadeus. Don't ask me how I got here, please. But that's the opportunity it is. And I think that needs to be done from the owners, that journey for them. That'll help your journey.
Yeah, I think, no, I was going to say, I think mentorship is really important because, you know, I always tell people that I've been very lucky in my career, as I've had some really good mentors, you know, and they still, you know, look at me and, you know, still call me up and say, oh, God, Linda, you know, I'm really happy with what you're doing. But I think that that is so important because, you know, having that seat at the table, I always remember when I was on the ITM board, you know, and I would never say anything at all. But then, you know, there was one individual that would constantly say, Linda, what are your thoughts, you know? And I think that that's so important because it really helps you open up. But that opportunity was given to me, you know, by somebody who I'm sure maybe they saw something in me, you know, but that it's important for us leaders to see that and take the people along with us. I think that's what we really need to do.
Sure.
So we have to wrap on LinkedIn Live.
Okay.
So I have maybe a last question because I actually got it sent through LinkedIn Live like 3 times. So, so that's the last question to all of you. How long do you expect this staff shortage to last? Is it a short or long problem? I'm sure you can.
And that's it, we're closing the panel right now. But
Yeah, thanks guys. To be honest with you, who knows right now? I know it's not the answer that anybody really knows, but I think from every reaction up here, you've probably got that none of us know. It's like asking when will the pandemic end or when will this situation end? What I would say is it will end a lot sooner if we do come together as a hospitality community. I think that right now there are a select few people that are really trying to find solutions, but that needs to be supported by the big brands. It needs to be supported by your hospitality groups and more importantly, your hospitality leaders. I've said this for a long time. I still believe that we need a number of influential people to come together and really find solutions. I think more often than not, we attend discussions, we attend roundtable events, and yet nobody leaves with actionable things that they can go away and do. It's just a discussion. We all complain about what's going on, and then we all leave and go back to our jobs. And my sort of, I suppose, focus is actually bringing a forum together to understand what the problem is and the root of where we can actually sort of solve it. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be within the year. It's going to be a long-term thing. But I think the more we do come together and we have actionable objectives to do, we all go away with our actionable objectives. We come back and we say, look, this is what we've achieved, but we need help in dealing with this. And then we come together and deal with that. I think the government side of things, that needs addressing. But again, for somebody in recruitment, nobody listens to me unless it's for a very specific reason. But somebody in a very influential seat within an operational or commercial function, they will be listened to, and that's what we need. I think I'm still looking intently for that individual that's going to help and find that group.
I also think that desperation has made the government listen, has made the business listen, and the hotel owners, the big brands, the big suppliers listen. I can tell you, I've been with Sunken for 8 years, and there's been change because of these days. And I think that will happen across the board.
I think I'm just talking about actionable results, because I belong to this association called African Women of Tourism. And one of the key things that they've done is actually based in Ghana, but they've partnered up with like the Swiss Management School. They've partnered up with a company called Work in Canada, who are educating about 1,000 girls in Ghana. But we've had some of the big brands that have actually now decided to start recruiting in Ghana. So it's really important to have those actionable results and actually push it forward. And I just joined them recently. They're actually making a lot of headway in that. Really trying to do a lot for women, but I would say like African women as well. And that for me is obviously one of my key passions.
I mean, there's a lot of research, and obviously we know the stats, but like you were saying, Tom, like what are the solutions that we can bring to the table that we can actually make a change happen? I guess ultimately, who's holding all of us accountable? Right? We can't rely on the government or whatever. We have to hold each of ourselves accountable to make sure that this happens. Yes, in the past they've tried to use quota, the 30 Club for the women or something like that, but each company, each individual